Okay, so how has it been? What stood out for us from last month? What have we been able to do with the conversation we had last month? What have we learned? Let's just do a quick recap, just a short paragraph as we deep dive into this new session. Just going to wait for us to put that in the comment section. Then I read it out, then we start. I'm waiting for us. What stood out for us? What is that one word? What is that thing that we've taken away that we've used in the last 2 months as it works for us? Please let me know. Okay, so while we're waiting, while I'm still waiting, I believe you're typing in the comment section while I'm waiting for us to come up with that. I'll introduce our topic for today. And our topic for today is forgiveness and reconciliation. For me, I thought that a lot of people will not join today's session because the thought of forgiveness in itself can be overwhelming, right? It can really be painful. The thought that you need to forgive, because sometimes people hurt you real deep and just feel like, let's just let this thing be. Let's just, this forgiveness thing, I think is not my thought. Let's just allow it be, right? So, thank you. I saw that people just joined us. Thank you for joining in. IBK, welcome. So I was mentioning that for people that were here last month, they should just give me a punchline or a phrase that stood out for them and what they've been able to do with it in the last 1 month. Meanwhile, we are introducing our session for today, which is about forgiveness and reconciliation. And I said, a part of me was like, people will not even want to join. Some people will not to join because the thought of forgiving people can be a lot. When people remember the things that people have done to them, they just want to say, okay, let's just forget about all this forgiveness thing. So, introduction, what is forgiveness? So let's talk about it. Some people say, hey, forgive and forget. Some people say a lot of things about forgiveness. But definition says, according to dictionary, it says a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards someone that has hurt you. Now, I'll take it again. A conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards someone who has hurt you. Now, the key words for me is conscious, deliberate. You have to want to do it. You have to be deliberate about it, right? It is something you have to consciously work towards. And what are you going to be doing? So the definition kind of sum it all, right? There's a deliberacy and there is what you're going to be doing. You're going to be releasing resentment. You want to release the hurt. You want to release the pains. And the funny part about forgiveness is that it is the people that are closest to us that hurt us the most. So, they were saying, I was in a session one day and we were talking about people you need to forgive. And someone said, oh, Danfo driver, Danfo conductor that insulted you. And I'm like, truly, you might not need to forgive that guy because you don't know him. You could believe that, oh, anything he says is out of context. He could say, oh, you're not beautiful, or you could say something really nasty to you. And you can let him go because he's probably drunk, taking 1 or 2 stuff this morning. He doesn't know you. But imagine if your spouse, someone that you've lived with all your life, someone that you've given all the things you have to them, or someone that you hold in high esteem, starts to say awful words towards you. then there's something to forgive, right? There's something to really forgive. So now let's go about it. Why do you need to forgive? Why do you need to forgive people? Why do you need to forgive people? You need to forgive because of your emotional freedom. Now, people think that when you are trying to forgive people, you are doing them a favor. No. One of my mentors used to say that unforgiveness is like you putting acid in your mouth and you want to spit it at someone that has done you wrong, and you start running after that person. You may eventually catch up with the person, but by the time you are spitting out that acid on the person, a large part of your chest, your mouth is gone. So what it means is that when you are forgiving people, you're actually doing yourself a good. You're letting go of pains. You're giving yourself emotional freedom. You're not allowing people do rent free in your head, right? You're breaking cycles of bitterness and resentment. And it also aligns with your spiritual and emotional growth. Now, when you are forgiving people, you are free. You can think. I don't know if anybody has noticed. If you have someone that you are fighting with, if you're a creative person, if you're a productive person, you won't be able to work. You will not be able to work. If you just, I want someone to attest to this, yes or yes. If you have troubles, if you have issues with your spouse or someone close to you, and you have it in your heart, how productive will you be? I know some of us use that opportunity to clean the house. You know, you are doing some very physical work, you are forming busy everywhere, but there's a level of deep work. And if you're someone that does prayer a lot, you won't be able to pray. You get into that space and you realize that there's this refrain. So I want you to give me in the comment section, are you able to really work and, go about your life when you have issues with people? Let me know. Maybe I'm the only one that when there's troubles, you just don't feel that rest. We are not saying anything. This place is dull. Okay. Because I just feel like I thought it was only me. If I say no, I'm not always at peace too. So when you're holding a lot of hurt towards someone, there is always this restraint you are going to have, right? So we've talked about forgiveness. So what is forgiveness? What is not forgiveness? So some people say, oh, forgive and forget. Sometimes forgiveness is not that you will now totally forget what the person has done to you. Most times it's not. It's sometimes you just choosing what you want to choose. You zooming into what you want to, and we're going to talk about that later. Forgiveness is not about you excusing the offense. You are capable of holding on to. So when someone does something to you, some part of the world, they make you feel like, oh, whatever they've done, maybe let's use woman and man now. A man goes out to cheat, he has an extramarital affair, and he comes back home. And some people start to make you feel like, he's a man, no, there's nothing you will do about it. You will just accept him like that. I don't know if we've had situations like that, right? Forgiving that man does not mean you are trying to excuse that offense. It doesn't say because he's a man, he has a right to trample on your emotions. So it's not you excusing that offense. It's not even you forgive. Sorry, guys, I lost my connection for a while. Okay, good to be back. So I was saying that forgiveness is not about you excusing that person's behavior. It's not about you excusing the things they've done to you, but it is you choosing a path that works for you. And again, forgiveness is not about, it's not that someone does something to you and you say, oh, I'm not going to address it. I want to forgive you, and you just let it go. No. Forgiveness sometimes is that you even have to put the matter back on the table, right? So forgiveness is not silent treatment. I think I'll use that word. Because some of us, when we're experiencing hurt, we resort to silent treatment. We just blank out on the person and we just go around our ways. The whole house is looking like something I don't want to say, but Forgiveness is not about silent treatment. It's not about, and again, forgiveness is not instant trust. How do I mean? Someone does something to you and you say, I forgive you. It does not mean that you will allow the person do that same thing, right? So recently, I was studying about forgiveness in the Bible, and when I think it was Peter that was talking to Jesus, and he said, how many times should I forgive my brother? So when they talk about brother here, brother means someone in a relationship with you, whether Christian, whether home. It's just like a neighbor, So he says, how often should I forgive my brother? And it was fast enough to, just try to tempt Jesus and say, 7 times. And Jesus said 7 times in a day. So if that is it, that means Jesus is saying that someone that you stay with can actually offend you for up to 50 times a day, and you have to forgive them. So I was like, for God, how? How can somebody keep offending me and I will continue to forgive them? And the thought that came to my mind is, would you give your 6-year-old child the keys to your car and ask them to drive? Ife, would you allow your 6-year-old child drive your car?
No.
No. Exactly
Yes,
the point. So what happens is that when people start to offend us, what they are doing is, or we express a certain level of hurt with people, what is happening is that they are telling us their capacity. They are showing us the level at which they can handle our personality, at which they can handle our things around us. So what happens is that you know the capacity of this person. So your expectation, I remember the last month we really dealt on expectations, how expectations defines so many things around the house and your life. So if you know that this person would do something to hurt me, so for instance, maybe I don't know why I'm using infidelity today, but imagine someone cheats on you, right? And you forgive that person. Forgiveness does not mean that you will now trust that person completely and now say, okay, he won't do it again. Forgiveness is you knowing that this guy, and even the Bible says that it's okay for you to let a man go, a woman go, on the basis of sexual immorality. So this is not to say that, if someone keeps cheating on you, you should sit down there and let the person bring HIV/AIDS and all of that to you. But what it also means is that you let go of the resentment, but you already know that this person is not capable of my trust. I don't know why this thing keeps tripping me. So good to be back. So forgiveness is about you knowing the capacity of the person you're dealing with and treating them according to their capacity, like putting people in their place. So you're not holding resentment, you are not holding any odds against them, but you are not also giving all of your heart to them. You are not increasing your expectations towards them. So someone speaks to you in an unruly manner, they are always, shouting at you and everything. Forgiveness is you not holding on to that odds, but it's also you knowing that this person would not speak to me in the same way. So I don't know if I'm explaining the balance properly. So you forgive them, you let go of the resentment, but you also understand where you are supposed to be with them. There is boundaries. I think that's the word. Yes, boundaries. You are able to set clear boundaries with them and say, okay, I will not let you speak with me that way. But you don't hold what they've done to you before. So forgiveness could be very dicey. It will look like, sometimes you feel like I'm a fool. And this is where the problem lies. People feel like, I keep forgiving you, but you repeat the same issue over and over again. And that's where the contention lies. So, okay, what happens if I continue to forgive this person of this certain hurt and it keeps recurring? And you guys are telling me to forgive again. That one, again, what I will say is, if it continues to hurt you, that same thing is probably because there's still a lot of expectations. So you are letting go of your resentment and you're reducing the expectations until the person is capable of holding up the expectation such that it doesn't hurt you anymore. And I know it can be painful, right? Because again, why would anyone in their rightful sense continue to hurt you and make you feel bad? It is not a place to be. And that's why I tell people, if you are if you look at the things we post on this group, we say it's for married women. If you are still single and you are seeing some things, you feel like, oh, this person is not able to manage my emotions well with me, it's okay to leave, right? It's easier to live when you're not married than when you're married. So instead of you getting into the relationship or getting into the marriage and trying to look for way out and trying to manage these things, if you realize that while you're cutting, this person continues to trample upon your emotions and makes you feel hurt, the person is already offending you like 20 or 50 times every day, then you need to start telling yourself the truth, right? Now we've talked about forgiveness, we've talked about want to talk about reconciliation. But before we go to reconciliation, I want to talk about the things that breeds hurt. We already mentioned that forgiveness, it's a deliberate effort to let go of hurt and resentment. So how do the hurt even come in? Okay, it says our meeting is going to end in 10 minutes. So if this meeting ends, let's just trend back and, you know, using the same link. Thank you. So what breeds hurt? What breeds hurt? Why do we feel hurt? The first thing is conflicting perspective, right? When for you it is 6, for me it is 9. When we have different perspectives and we are expressing those perspectives in a way, sometimes it's a communication issue, right? This is what you're trying to say. This is what I'm trying to say. I don't understand you. Then you start calling me names. Are you stupid? Can't you see? No. To you is 6, to me is 9. So when we have conflicting perspectives, you need to learn to now find a way. And that's where conflict resolution comes in. But you need to know that the first things that breeds hurt, that breeds resentment in relationship, in marriage, is when people have conflicting perspectives. So when things are happening and sometimes there's argument or you feel pained, what you want to ask yourself is, what is the perspective this person is talking about? Again, let's talk about infidelity. Some men feel like it's okay. Jokingly, you will hear some people say, how can you be eating rice every day? So to them, staying faithful to their wife means that they are eating only rice every day. It's a wrong perspective. Especially if you're a Christian, you know that the Bible says that you should be faithful to your spouse. So for you, it is wrong. So let's talk about that perspective. Where did you get that from? So there can be fried rice, there can be jollof rice, there can be basmati rice, there can be ofada rice. Rice can come in different flavors. So the perspective will now be, is it, and these are the things I feel like you should have discussed before you got married. But if you're here, I really hope that infidelity is not the issue we are dealing, but I just feel like it's a popular opinion that we can use to just drive some point home. But again, you need to understand, sometimes even parenting, you feel that you should beat your child when they go wrong. Your husband feels like when they say spare the rod is not physical cane. The rod is word of mouth. And, you are trying to talk to your children, or the husband's trying to talk to your children, and you are trying to beat. And every time there's something in the house, you both are going into issues, and before you know it, the aggression moves from your children to you, and it starts to call you name. And those episodes happen like that. So it's a conflicting perspective. You guys want to sit down and say, okay, guy, what is your thoughts? What is your opinion? What's your perspective around raising children? And you want to sit down and say, okay, this is what I feel. And you want to say, okay, this is how I feel. And you start to align those things. Another thing is, one other thing that brings out, that makes people, like, that does things to people for, is unexpressed expectations. And I think we touched a bit about it last month when we're talking about, Valentine's Day, and, you're expecting people, your spouse, to buy you flowers, to, do all those romantic things, and he didn't do it, and you feel hurt, you feel offended. So when your spouse is not expressing, or when you are not expressing your expectations, when you have expectations that you have not told him, or you have not agreed on, it can breed hurt. Another thing that can breed hurt is unrealistic expectation. Your husband is earning maybe 500,000 in a month, and you expect him to buy you a car. Yes, he's working, but now, the last time I checked, if you want to buy even a brand new or a fairly used Toyota Corolla, you would have at least maybe 6 million naira. So if your husband is earning 500,000 and he needs to, take care of the house, do all of those things, he probably might not be able to save more than, if he's a really, really good saver, he will save 150 or 100,000. Before you can make 5.5 million naira from that savings, it should be a lot, right? So when you see other people getting cars as birthday gifts and all of those things, like, this man cannot even buy me a car. It can be unrealistic, right? So am I saying that you guys should continue in that space? No, but you give it time. Right now, what he is doing, can he afford to get you a car? Even if he brings you that car, I feel like you are the one that should ask him, that guy, where did you get this from? I know that some companies, they do car loan and all of that, but how advisable is a car loan? Because it means that he's going to be servicing that loan from his salary, and people have school fees issues, feeding issues, and all of those things. And the common word for this is keeping up with the Joneses, right? You just want to be like other people. Another thing that brings about hurt in marriages and relationships is third man expectation. Third man expectation. There is something around, or what your family members come and your husband says a thing, you are used to it, and I'm like, is your husband talking to you like that? Or your friend, like, how can your husband be talking to you like that? I can't take it though. So you hold it in your hand. And I know we've seen those things in movies, all those saloon advice. They tell you, if it is me, I can't take it. But what they are taking in their house is worse of what you're experiencing. I'm not saying that we should condone bad habits or bad behaviors from our spouses, but we should not also run our home with a third-party expectation. We should not let people tell us that, can't you see that it's disrespecting you? If you can't see that it's disrespecting you, sorry, you probably can't see. And maybe what has helped you so far is your ignorance. And if you would now see, there's a way to address it. Don't let people push you into you coming to say, we have to, you really have to fight for this, right? Don't let the third man expectation, don't let it come into place, right? Now, we've talked about forgiveness. Let's talk about reconciliation, because again, a lot of times that reconciliation is important. People say, I've forgiven you, but they don't reconcile. Okay, no, before we get to reconciliation, let's do a little more with forgiveness. I'm sure this guy will be going out very soon. Okay, so we still have 3 minutes. Once this thing goes off, let's just come back. So let's look at the assumptions that can help you forgive. Now, we've talked about what forgiveness is, what forgiveness is not, why you need to forgive, and the kind of things that brings about hurt that leads to forgiveness. So let's look at the assumptions that can help you forgive. The first thing is, anybody is capable of hearing, like ERRING. We are humans. Even the best of people, sometimes they mess up. Let's use that word. No matter how good you can be. And sometimes the things that are even happening to the other person, because sometimes you don't even know what's wrong with them. They went out the day. You don't know what happened in their day. You don't know the kind of conversations they had at work. You don't know the kind of things they experienced on the road. So people are capable of erring, and that's the first thing you should know. Nobody is an island when it comes to hurting people. As good as Jesus Christ is and was, if we have experience with people that, and we saw it even in the Bible, people still took offense in him. You know, even us as humans, sometimes we are angry with God and be like, God, I said you should do this, you did not do this. So if we think that God can offend us, which God will never offend us, you know, but if in our own thoughts we feel like God can offend us, who is a human being that cannot offend us? So you need to know these things in your mind so that it doesn't look like nobody. Tell me a married that will say that me and my husband, we've never offended ourselves. He has never hurt me. Just walk away from that person because that person is telling you a blatant lie. So everybody is capable of hearing, whether it's you, whether it's your spouse. Now, the second assumption that will help you forgive people is that people they act according to their level of knowledge. Okay, so this will go out now. Let's just check out and check back in so that we don't lose our line of thought. All right, thanks guys. Let's just go out and come back in.